kind of decide session by session. Okay. And then, you know, if people can get the slides or whatever. But I just wanted to, before you got too far, so my fault.
Okay, cool. No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. It wasn't being recorded before. Yes, and I can definitely send the slides to you all after this. Like you will get all the slides from all the workshops, I think. Yeah, so Afro-surrealism as a term was coined by Amiri Baraka, who was a revolutionary poet who lived in the 60s. He described Henry Dumas' work as Afro-surrealist. And I am hearing the worst thunder ever, and I feel like that's a little surrealist right now, because it is shining and the sun is out, so that's very strange. The term delineates from Afrofuturism and surrealism, which was the 20th century avant-garde movement that we won't go into because we are trying to decenter dead white men. In 2009, D. Scott Miller wrote an Afro-surrealist manifesto where he listed 10 tenets of Afro-surrealism, which include how Afro-surrealist work is to restore the cult of the past, and more poetically, or in my opinion, the Afro-surreal presupposes that beyond this visible world, there is an invisible world striving to manifest, and that it is our job to uncover it. So the thing that I love about this idea is that the invisible world that exists is not something that we are imagining, something that we are making up. It's something that we are discovering. So there has to be a willingness to open ourselves up to the possibility that this is not all there is, and like to be curious, to come to everything in life with a sense of curiosity. So Ngano griots and faith. Speaking of, the wonderful workshop session led by Yvette went a little bit into this, how African, Black, and Brown societies have been living with the spiritual as part of the physical and not apart from it. We know this already. Even thinking about how the Ngano calls on the divine in a way that speaks to the tangible present. So one of the things that Afro-surrealism says that is different from Afrofuturist, a lot of Afrofuturist specific fields, is that it deals with the present in a way that that still fucks with time, because there's an acknowledgement of the past and there's an acknowledgement of a potential future, but there is a focus and a centering on the present. So colonization interrupted a history of deeper awareness of the unseen, which a lot of our generation is trying to return to. Afro-surrealism requires us to not just tell a story of the metaphysical, but to believe in the possibility that it exists. One of my favorite quotes ever, I actually quoted it in my novella, which is coming out in the fall, soft plug, is by Kay Miller, who wrote August Town. And in it, he says, the quote is, what if the question is not whether we believe in these stories or not, but whether these stories are told by the type of people we have never taken the time to believe in. And that was important for me, because the types of people that society, the world, the West, whatever, has never taken the time to believe in are people who speak to spiritual histories as real. And, you know, it's dismissed, it's called crazy, it's called, I did an independent study project on Black prophetics, and one of the most interesting things that I came across was how a lot of Black spiritual workers who were anti-colonialist were labeled crazy and put in asylums as a way to make what they preached irrelevant, to make their words irrelevant to the people, because they were garnering so much support from the societies that they were speaking to, the indigenous communities who believed them. One situation of this was Alexander Bedward, who was the Jamaican prophet who said that he would be able to fly. He said that he had gotten a vision from God and he would be able to fly. And like, he started gaining a lot of support because he also talked about how God had told him the black wall would rise up over the white wall and destroy it. That was his vision. And it was a commentary on Black people rising up and fighting against the colonial structures that existed. And because he started gaining so much support from the people, the colonialists got intimidated and they were like, nah, we have to arrest this dude. Not only did they arrest him, they called him crazy. They said that he was, they told us that we were practicing witchcraft and like all this different shit to kind of invalidate our spiritual practices and his spiritual practice, and his revelation. And so the types of people who tell this story, there's the written version of history where um, he was arrested, he was sent to an asylum, he never flew, the visions were all false, yada, yada, yada. And then there's the story that's told in conversation, the story that's told in gossip, the story that if you go to Augustown, Jamaica, you would like hear the people talking about how he flew. And yeah, the book is amazing. You should read the book. It's called Augustown by Kay Miller. And yeah. So creating worlds. As mentioned earlier, the term Afro-surrealism comes from poet Amiri Baraka, a 60s Black philosopher and thinker, when he was describing Henry Dumas' legacy left in his storytelling. Baraka has this brilliant essay where he goes into Afro-surrealism and he says, Henry Dumas' power lay in his skill at creating an entirely different world, organically connected to this one. A mythological presence pervades. Their morality tales, magical, resonating dreams, emotions, and images, shifting ambiguous terror, mystery, implied revelation, but they are also stories of real life, now or whenever, constructed in weirdness and poetry in which the contemporaneity of essential themes is clear. Sorry guys, there's a lot of noise around me. I hope it's not too much. So, understanding the brief history of Afro-surrealism, how do we Afro-surreal? In Baraka's definition, we see craft tools we can use in the description of the work, such as how it shifts from ambiguous terror to mystery and implied revelation. These are the feelings that the work involves, that the work invokes. He describes the surrealist blending of opposites in Dumas' stories, how they possessed an ancient mystery and yet spoke urgently to the contemporary moment. And that's the fucking of time part. Afro-surrealism is commonly understood to be, like the above account, dreamlike and a departure from the observable world, in this case, into an overly observing one. The surreal invites us to pay attention. It invokes emotion that causes us to pause and think through contradictions. In a 1956 essay for the leading Pan-African journal of his day, Alexis spoke of the Haitian marvelous as one might speak of Afro-surrealism, writing, "What then is the marvelous except the imagery in which a people wraps its experience, reflects its conception of the world and of life, its faith, its hope, its confidence in man, in a great justice, and the explanation which it finds for the forces antagonistic to its progress." So in the No Theory Chant of Afro-surrealism by Terry Francis, he talks about Romana Bearden's art, and he says that this art is Afro-surreal. This is the art that I've put in this presentation. Yeah, they say his works are not merely Afro-surreal because they are fragmented and play on our vision, but because they are suspended until enlivened, dynamized by human hands and briefed experience and imagination in ways that leave the viewer tugged between two worlds, two ways of seeing, and add to it the uncanny of the object, something that keeps coming up in different conversations in this Voodoonauts space. How it is an art object, but also natural. Just paper cut up, but paper that looks at you, is aware of you, is changed by how you touch it, by how light falls or doesn't upon it. And this is what we're trying to do with Afro-surrealism. I read this and I was just like, that's what I'm trying to say, because you want work that comes alive, as much as it's the mundane, it's the things that we take for granted. You have to somehow reinvigorate it and remind ourselves that these things are living, breathing parts of this universe of existence. And creating that in art is one of the most beautiful things you can do, in my opinion. So one of the first techniques, and people take this for granted, it sounds very hippie, but presence. The first craft form of Afro-surrealism is with understanding the uchawi, juju, voodoo, and magic that is grounded in the now. We must ask ourselves how we can possess the ancient mystery, which was spoken about, while speaking urgently to the contemporary moment, as Baraka talked about. Because Afro-surrealism speaks to different planes, there has to be an intentional curiosity to move ourselves as the storytellers from the observed to the observers. So we're going to do a small activity. I'm going to take us back to the Bearden piece. And I want us to sit with it for like 3 minutes and observe all the different experiences in this picture. I want you to then write down what you first saw when you looked at the picture before, like when you glanced at it, what came to mind, and then what you saw when you sat down intentionally to observe the picture. That's the activity number 1. Activity number 2 is to write down what feelings the painting elicits in you. What does it invoke in you? What feelings does it invoke in you? So I'm going to take us back to the painting. And can you all see the painting clearly? Because I can also drop a link for you to find it.
It looks like it's a bit cropped.
It looks a bit cropped. Okay. 1 second. I wanted to send you a link to it, but I can't find it. So I'm just going to see if I can attach the picture. Yeah, my loves, I'll just send you a different version after this because it's looking like it's a bit difficult to get it right now, but I hope this still works. Okay, I'll call us back. Just if anyone wants to volunteer themselves, a few thoughts on what you've written down.
It took me a while to really engage with it because I was engaging with it as an artist, right? And so I was breaking it apart, the composition and the colors and the use of space. And I wasn't thinking about it as a writer. Like I wasn't thinking about what the artist was saying. I just thought about what they did. And it took me a minute to like switch modes.
Yeah. But that's the cool thing about Afro-surrealism, I think. You don't necessarily have to switch modes because it's cross-genre. It's how your subconscious writing brain is already influencing how you're deciphering it as an artist, just the way your subconscious artist brain deciphers how you read stories. Yeah, but that's pretty cool.
So, like, I'm not really good at art critique. Give me a literary thing and I'm all about it. But art is like, oh, but like, so based on the exercise though, right? The first thing I saw was the guitar in the back. And it could be a banjo for all I know, but it looks like a guitar to me. So that's what I saw, guitar, right? And I see this person, feminine, laying down on this maybe couch is what I see. And then the person seems to be in the background, like luxuriously stretching and moving about, but it's not like there's like a laziness about it. And like this, it reminds me of one of my godmother's homes, like this is country, laid back in the summertime when it was hot. We just want the windows open and we want to lay down, but let some music come on. And it was a totally different vibe, but the person's like featureless. So I thought shadow. So when I was looking at it, I was like, what if there's somebody's shadow, right? And they got the day off because the person's gone, but the shadow's at home, like enjoying themselves. And like, I thought about this Anansi story where Anansi was so lazy and so always trying to get out of something, right? And like, I'm like, what if your shadow is just lazy as hell? And it's the summertime and they ain't going outside with you. But like this blues story, they just hanging out in the music and at the crib chilling while you out working, all tired and stuff because you ain't got your shadow. That's kind of where I went with it.
Okay, David, we need that story. We need it written like yesterday. What the heck? I'm here for a lazy shadow. Thank you for sharing. That was dope. Ola, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was thinking about the fact that the woman, or I'm assuming that it's a woman laying on the couch, doesn't have any clothes on. And also the person in the back is also half naked. So, and I'm looking at the table and there's like glasses and a wine bottle. And it looks like the phone is off the hook. And I'm thinking it's like the day after a sex party, and the person in the back and the person laying down, this is their apartment, and the man in the corner, they're like ready for him to leave, and he's kind of like dwindling, like lingering.
Yeah.
So the person on the couch is like pretending that they're asleep, and the person in the back is kind of acting like they're busy doing something so that this man could get out. And I'm noticing like how vibrant and how colorful and how beautiful the place is. So it's richly decorated. So these people really love their space. They have flowers, they have paintings, they have photographs, they have curtains, all these luscious fabrics. So this is a really fun home, and there's a lot of like antics that go on. And this dude in the corner is just like lurking, and they're just like, oh God, I wish this guy would just get out. That's what I was feeling.
I love that. I also love how you told the whole story in present tense. That makes me happy. Amalia.
The first thing I saw was a quilt, because I was in grade school at the time, but I am very certain I have seen quilts in this art style. So, looking at the story inside the piece, it's like, before the second thing I noticed, before story, after quilts, is contrast, because light couch, much darker person lying down, and it just looks like a warm day. Best to like, so partially explains lack of clothes on her, and when it's warm, you just want to fall asleep.
That's
I do notice a bit of male gaze going on, since you get the side profile, and she is a curvaceous lady, and the guy's eye line is very much directed towards her.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And the point that you raised about contrast, we'll come back to that. Adrian, then Nikita.
I'm just going to build off of what Amalia said, which is basically everyone's being watched in every corner of this room, and also the framing device of using yellow in every color and red. And finally, I just want to note that it's a multiple perspective, like almost ghostly, like another world is being watched inside of another world. And then finally, I just want to note the collage style itself is a quilt, and that's a quilting style. That's it.
Yo, y'all are even giving me metaphors to use for Afro-surrealism as a quilt. Like, I feel like that's the end of the talk. You can go home now. Nikita.
Right, so the first thing I had noticed was the guy in the corner with the guitar. And then I started to notice how lived in the space was. You have an empty glass, well, not an empty, half empty glass of wine. You have the photos of what seem to be people on the walls. So this is clearly a space that has been lived in for a while. And I'm guessing that the people are important to whoever owns the space or whoever visits the space. I also noticed that little clock, I assume, in the corner. So time is of essence in this space if you have a clock. And then I started noticing the duality. It's like, is this guy in the corner part of the scene, or is he just an obnoxious peeping Tom with a guitar? Is this person, like, are the two female figures in the scene, are they companions, or is the one in the corner dancing away to whatever vibes Peeping Tom is playing in the corner there? Or at first I thought she was like in a kitchen, but then I thought maybe it's a bathroom, and then I really wasn't sure what that space was. And then and then when I looked at the figure who was sleeping, like, it's clearly a familiar space because, as LP and you demonstrated, they're wearing their bonnets. She's wearing a bonnet, I assume. So, like, this place is clearly familiar to at least two of the figures involved to me. But then there's this lurking guy. I don't know. Does he own the instrument on the wall as well? I'm curious.
Yeah, those are very interesting questions. Very well observed. So we have time for two more questions, Njeri and then Ernestine, and then we'll move on.
Thanks. I noticed how flat it seemed, the whole picture seemed to me, but yet it had so much dimension, and I found that ironic and fun. It also seems like the behind this couch, it doesn't seem like a window to me. It seems like a doorway to me. So why you would have a couch blocking a doorway to what? And so that was something I noticed. But I didn't really notice the man, but that's how I respond to male gaze, I think. But I think, like, the couch is where I spent most of my time. The fact that the colors are so light. And it actually, to me, it looked like the body was cut out as opposed to placed on top. And so for me, I thought about, like, the imprint that our dreaming selves might leave on the places that we rest. Like, maybe that person's actually not there, right? Maybe they're gone, like, through the couch somewhere else. And then there's this weird, like, dolphin bird kind of face that I'm seeing in the couch. And so I was just wondering about dreaming and when we go and when we return.
Njeri.
So that's what I'm focused on. I really, really love this, but I can't take my eyes away from the couch and the imprint left by the dreaming body.
That is a story. Yeah. So shift from reader to writer yesterday. The dreaming imprint. Ernestine?
When I was looking at this, I mostly felt very unnerved. I don't know how y'all are looking at this and feeling some type of normal. But it was mostly because of when I'm looking at the couch, like, first of all, everything in the room is slightly tilted. It's not exactly straight. And I don't know if that was a choice or just, because it's a collage. But also, like she said about the couch, the door behind it, it feels so uncomfortable to have something where you can't see the entrance and anyone could come in and it's behind you and this person is sleeping. They feel so vulnerable in this moment. On top of that, there's the supposed alcohol on the table, which tells me this person might not even be able to wake up if someone was to enter. It felt very unnerving, very suspicious. I didn't like most of it. Even the way that things were created, it feels like approximations. Like I want to say this kind of furniture in the back in brown. I can tell it's furniture, but it feels so strange to see it represented this way. Because once you really look at it, it's not furniture anymore, right? And so that was basically what I was thinking.
Yeah, and you're making me think about, like, the multiple interpretations of this. All of you have given different interpretations, but it's so interesting because even thinking about the figure as a shadow instead of a body, or the figure on the couch as a dream imprint instead of a person, like the person has gone. Like, there are so many different ways this could be interpreted, and that's one of the beautiful things about surrealism. It's not neat and like packed into a, this is exactly what it is and this is objective. There's no objectivity about it. Yeah, thank you for indulging me, guys. We will move on to the next slide now. Hopefully it doesn't rain cats and dogs while I'm out here. So, feel all the feelings is the title of this section. Can someone read for me this little first 2 paragraphs of the story?
I can, because feeling all the feelings is my favorite thing to do.
Love it.
Just the first 2 paragraphs, you said?
Yes, please.
Where there is a woman, there is magic. If there is a moon falling from her mouth, she is a woman who knows her magic, who can share or not share her powers. A woman with a moon falling from her mouth, roses between her legs and tiaras of Spanish moss. This woman is a consort of the spirits. Indigo seldom spoke. There was a moon in her mouth. Having a moon in her mouth kept her laughing. Whenever her mother tried to pull the moss off her head or clip the roses round her thighs, Indigo was laughing. Mama, if you pull them off, they'll just grow back. It's my blood. I've got earth blood, filled up with the G cheese, long gone in the sea.
Thank you, Laura. How do we feel about this paragraph? Because I know when I first read it. Okay, first of all, this is from the book, this book. Don't know if y'all can see it. It is Sassafras, Cypress, and Indigo by, I can see some nodding heads, Ntozake Shange. I always feel like I'll mess up her name, but it is a gorgeous, gorgeous book. And this is the first paragraph in the book. So this is like how you're brought into the story, and it is magic. Also Afro-surrealist as heck. Yeah, Baraka uses the phrase broken quality almost to abstraction. So this is Amiri Baraka. I'm taking us back to the original poet who defined Afro-surrealism to describe the sense of rupture or disconnection or disjointedness, the shatterings of smooth narrative coherence that characterize Afro-surrealist expression. Disruption can also be called the unexpected. This is what infers the mixed, like you're just left with so many feelings. And you're like, what are these feelings that I'm feeling? Afro-surrealism is directed at the part of us that feels. The intentional disruption of a smooth or expected linear narrative style is what causes the mixed or unexpected reactions. Which brings us to a point that Amalia made, I think, earlier about the contrast. Opposites attract. So one of my favorite theories or politics that I believe in and I practice is the idea of the dialectics. So, which is just the theorist term for both end. To understand that human beings are made up of contradictions is not just important, but is essential to the work of storytelling. In Afro-surrealism, we have juxtaposition. That's the work that this tool does. Placing things that don't typically belong together next to each other. So the reader is left with a lot of feelings because they're like, what? What just happened? What was this? Juxtaposition is what elicits the mixed emotions that come from expectation being disrupted. So the unexpected and everything is alive. Can I have
Got me.
one more person? Okay, cool. LP.
The feather in the wind.
Read, I think, the knife first.
The knife. He was born with a silver knife in his mouth. He was its first victim.
So this is from a collection of flash fiction stories by Osama Alomar called The Teeth in Its Comb. And I have like been raging about this book because I was like, I've never read flash done so good. I didn't know you could do that. He was born with a silver knife in his mouth and he was its first victim. That is, it's two sentences. It's two sentences and so many freaking feelings. And I get what he's doing, but I'm also like, how dare you do that? Like, what? So yeah, juxtaposition allows you to, it's unexpected, and that leaves you feeling a lot of things. LP, go for the feather in the wind.
The feather in the wind. The feather said to the wind in a slain voice, "What's this tyranny?" The wind answered, "What's this weakness?"
Yeah. Yes, your facial reactions are giving me life because that's exactly how I felt when I was reading these stories. Please get yourself a copy of this book. So in Afro-surrealism, sorry?
Purchased. That is
Purchased?
wow. Wow.
Yeah. So in Afro-surrealism, the belief that the spiritual realm is part of the physical realm allows for everything on earth to be a character. The trees gossip, the wind whispers, the moon falls, and the sky sighs. Humans are discentered. So even this conversation, there's not a human in the story about the feather in the wind, but it is beautiful and it captures so many human feelings. This is how to make everything alive, or AKA release the poet. So a very practical craft tool is metaphors must become your best friend in Afro-surrealism. This is like playing around with style on the page. You have to treat them as a lover, coax them, caress them, use them, and allow them to blow your mind with their sweet loving. Similes, on the other hand, are the enemy. They drop in every once in a while, but you must kick them out often. The as if and like fillers must get out. So we're going to do a short writing activity. You're going to write two versions of the same story, a story scene, and fill it with all the wildest, most unexpected similes that you can think of. And then you're going to rewrite the same stories and remove all the as ifs and likes and simile words. We're going to do this for 10 minutes.
I always mess this up. So similes are the like, right?
Yes.
So they're like,
Yes.
this, like that, as if. Okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it again. It's been a while. Okay. Last question. Do both of them in 10 minutes or just do the first part?
Okay, I'll check in 10 minutes and see how far you all are. Okay, I'll give y'all 10 more minutes for the second part. It's just started raining. I think this is a good sign. Blessings. Okay, so that's time. I want you to hold on to what you've written because I think if we have time at the end, I'd love to hear some examples that came up from this exercise. But for now, I'd like us to watch a video by one of my favorite poets of all time. Theorist also, Kamal Brathwaite has given me so much permission to do so many things in my own writing, like, you know, fuck with the English language, write the way my people speak, play with time, and definitely an Afro-surrealist performer and poet. So please let me know if you have, I'm gonna try and play the video. Let's see if you guys have access to it. Let's choose. What is happening? Okay, So let me stop sharing this and maybe share a different screen. Can you all hear?
No sound yet.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay.
I think you're supposed to share computer audio when you
Yeah.
speak. The sign is like at the bottom.
Okay. Do I have to like unshare and then reshare?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always forget to do that.
Okay, share computer sound. I see it. Let's go.
Jamaica. The stone had skated.
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I just, if you can close your eyes, no, maybe you want to look at this, but like I want you to be very present, focus on the video, the sound, the music, the poetry, just focus in it fully with all your attention for the next 3 minutes.
And bloomed into islands, Cuba and San Domingo. The stone had skated, arced and bloomed into islands, Cuba and San Domingo, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Grenada, Guadeloupe, Bonaire. Curved stone hissed into reef, wave teeth fanged into clay, white splash flashed into spray, Bathsheba, Montego Bay, bloom of the arcing summers. The islands roared into green plantations ruled by silver sugar cane. Sweat and profit, cutlass profit, islands ruled by sugar cane. And of course it was a wonderful time, a profitable, hospitable, well worth your time, when captains carried receipts for rices, letters, spices, wigs, opera glasses, swaggering asses, debtors, vices, pigs. Oh, it was a wonderful time, an elegant, benevolent, redolent time. And young Mrs. P's quick, irrelevant crime at 4 o'clock in the morning. But what of Black Sam with the big splayed toes and the shoe black shiny skin? He carries bucketfuls of water, 'cause his ma's just had another daughter. And what of John with the European name who went to school and dreamt of fame? His boss one day called him a fool, and the boss hadn't even been to school. Steel drum, hit the hot calypso dancing, hot rum, who going stop this bacchanaliing? For we glance the banjo, dance the limbo, grow our crops by maljo, have loose morals, gather corals, father our neighbors' quarrels. Perhaps when they come with their cameras and straw hats, sacred pink tourist from the frozen north, we should get down to those white beaches where if we don't wear breeches, it becomes an island dance. Some people doing well while others are catching hell. Oh, the boss gave our Johnny the sack, though we beg him please, please to take him back. So the boy now migrating overseas.
Okay, so I want us to do another writing exercise. I want you to write, thinking about the contrast between, thinking about the contrast between the video on the screen and the words being performed, and like also the how music is incorporated and the lines that were shared, the contrast that were given even in the piece itself. whatever struck you, whatever stuck out for you, write a creative writing response, a creative response. So just tell a story. And I'm gonna give you 15 minutes to do this. This is a free writing prompt. So when you start writing, try not to stop until the time is up. Okay, well, let's come back from the writing prompt. I'm so excited to hear what you guys have come up with. But I'll quickly finish the rest of the presentation and then we can get into that. So one of the other craft techniques of Afro-surrealism is to incorporate what I call small magics. Like, this is tiny disruptions. Afro-surrealism is drawn to quiet disorientation. This brings us back to the conversation that some people had earlier when Jerry was presenting, and even before when Yvette did a whole workshop on turning the mundane into the uncanny. We're looking at how we can disrupt the mundane. Thus, re-emphasizes presence, a deeply anti-capitalist practice, because it encourages slowing down enough to be aware of all the possibilities. Can y'all hear me? If it is raining now. I'm gonna move a little bit. Yeah, so it is a deeply anti-capitalist practice because it encourages slowing down enough to be aware of all the possibilities in the world directly around you, while being aware that it is a very real setting. So Afro-surrealism asks us to constantly live in the what if, and that is with literally everything, with this red dress, with the floor, with the bed, with whatever is next to you in your vicinity at this moment. To create an Afro-surrealist story is to be present enough to think about the possibilities you can create with whatever you have around you, or how you can be in conversation with the things around you. And that allows everything to be alive. So a closing review. We have presence, some of the things that we've learned. We have presence, we have observing and paying attention to the mundane and the natural earth. Asking as many what if questions as you possibly can. We have juxtaposition, so inviting the unexpected into your work and being open to contradictions. In fact, not just being open to contradictions, but inviting contradictions as well. Remembering everything can be and is alive. So thinking about the life of the natural earth around you, the trees, the ground, the sky, the clouds, and metaphors, beloved. Small magics. In conclusion, there is no conclusion. Neat happy endings. It speaks to Black experiences because it is aware of the contradictions that lie in our intersectionalities. As Black, as femme or masc, as queer, as African American, as Caribbean, as European, because Blacknesses exist. And as someone mentioned earlier, we are not a monolith. Neither surrealism nor Afro-surrealism is a style, a set of criteria, an ideology, a genre, or even a coherent exploration. It is not a movement. It is an imaginary call to which I think is a call to the imagination, magnetizing loosely related sensibilities. And it certainly is a modernism connected to other forms of modernism, such as the Harlem Renaissance, negritude, magical realism, and what Haitian novelist Jacques Stephen Alexis called marvelous realism, which is another beautiful subcategory of the speculative fiction world, the Black speculative fiction world. Therefore, Afro-surrealist work is both intentional with its message and open to interpretation, as we found with the art piece that we were looking at earlier. It is a school in motion, constantly reevaluating itself so that it is open to critique and does not take itself too seriously. So my personal favorite Afro-surrealist, or one of my favorite, is Susan Césaire, who was the wife of Aimé Césaire, who wrote not Decolonizing the Mind, sorry, I'm thinking about other things. Discourse on Colonialism, which is a great, because like they're both poets and artists and writers, but they're theorists as well. And it's very accessible work that speaks about the experience of colonialism. I genuinely think every Black person should read that book. I also think Susan Cesare is not given as much credit as she should be. And she has a collection of writings called The Great Camouflage. And I came across it when I was doing my Black Prophetics independent study. And there's this quote in it where she says, thus far, which is where I'll end, thus far from contradicting, diluting, or diverting our revolutionary attitude towards life, surrealism strengthens it. It nourishes an impatient strength within us, endlessly reinforcing the massive army of refusals. And I'm also thinking of tomorrow. Millions of Black hands will hoist their terror across the furious skies of the World War. Freed from a long, benumbing slumber, the most disinherited of all peoples will rise up from plains of ashes. Our surrealism will supply this rising people with a punch from its very depths. Our surrealism will enable us to finally transcend the sordid and antinomies of the present. Whites, Blacks, Europeans versus Africans, civilized savages, at least rediscovering the magic power of the Mahulis, drawn directly from living sources. Colonial idiocy will be purified in the welder's blue flame. We shall recover our value as metal, our cutting edge of steel, our unprecedented communion. And with that, my loves, we shall end the presentation. Ola, your comment is giving me life. So I want us to have some readings. I want to hear what you've written in the space during this time that we've shared together. I've just seen a question, which I think I must have missed, but apparently Njeri asked about the relationship between Afro-surrealism and magical realism, which is a very good question. I think Yvette pointed to it earlier in a very, I answered it in the last quote. That's amazing. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. So can I hear some words?
Before you do, I'm sorry, but can you repeat what you said in Afro about the difference between magic realism and Afro-surrealism?
I can repeat the last quote if it helps. I know the thing that I was thinking about was how Yvette pointed to magical realism being tied back to the Latinx community, and it's a very specific terminology that is that is inherited from their history. And just like we have Afrofuturism for Black folks, but then there can also be a conversation.
I'm sorry, I hear you.
Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
What if you are Afro-Latino? Can't you use magic realism in your Afro-Latina experience? If you're not Caribbean, you're from Brazil, you're from Uruguay, Paraguay, all those places, Peru. So could you use magic realism that way, or is it a form of cultural appropriation? I think that's my main question that wasn't answered by Yvette's explanation.
Okay.
I just want to be respectful.
Yeah. Okay, so I can give you my personal opinion because I am not Afro-Latino or Afro-Latina, and I feel like there's a lot of intersectionality and a lot of the terms that we use for writing, especially when created by indigenous communities, are very inclusive. So I know that Afrofuturism has people of Asian descent who have written work in the field and about the field. And I know in magical, like people identify as magical realist writers, even though they're not necessarily part of the Latinx community. Yeah, so I think that especially if you have Latinx heritage, that there's no reason why you can't use the terminology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to hijack. Move on.
Not hijacking, it's a conversation. I love it.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions, thoughts? there's a question about how animism and Afro-surrealism are related. So I am learning with y'all. Does anyone want to tackle this? Okay. How animism and Afro-surrealism are related. Yes, Aurelius?
I was just thinking that when you look at not just ancient African literature or ideas of storytelling, but when you look at world ideas about storytelling, animism was a very native way of thinking about the world, right? And it's only within the relative recent times, honestly, recent, I mean like in the last 1,000 years or so, that we really became passionate about this is that, things are things, and everything is separated and everything has a category. And I think that magical realism might be a bit of an answer to that idea that everything is what it is, and everything, we should take everything at face value, right? Yeah. An object is an object and can be nothing more. And magical realism and a bunch of other African ideas about expressions of art actually answer that and have been answering it for the last, couple of centuries. And that's the relationship I see between the two.
I agree. I definitely think I would argue that it's semantics, that they are different names for the same thing. And it's speaking to the spiritual as part of the physical plane and not apart from it. Yes. Okay, so we don't have much time and I really want to get as many words as I can read. So should I just pick on you or will you volunteer yourselves? Because I am a teacher. I do this for a living, so I pick on people with love.
You're take the popsicle stick out the cup?
Sorry?
You're gonna take that popsicle stick out of the cup? That's how you pick
Popsicles.
names.
Oh, yeah.
Take a popsicle stick with the name on it out the cup, and whoever it is, that's who that's to read.
Yeah, if we were in person, that would be a great idea. Yvette, your hand is up.
Yeah, I really love the metaphors simile exercise, and I kind of started, I think it's a poem or it could be a flash fiction, I don't know what it is. And I'd mentioned earlier that I was eating, barbecue ribs and chicken, so I think that's how I ended up where I ended up. So it's called Wandi Rasa, which means thrown away. So the first part is the similes part. In every relationship, she was like a chicken bone. And the men, like teeth and tongue, ate of her flesh, licked the juices clean until nothing was left, until the only place for her was the bin. And then the next part is the metaphors only part. In every relationship, she was a chicken bone, juicy flesh to be picked clean by teeth and tongue, until the only place for her was the bin. She made a world inside a trash can, built a home out of discarded things, made wallpaper out of stained paper towels, chandeliers out of empty bottles, and traded gossip with the fruit flies who gave her their songs. And that's where I ended.
Yo, I felt that in my spirit. I had to say that out loud. That was amazing.
Thank you.
That was so good. Praise work, come through.
I'd like to go next.
Yes, Z and then Nikita.
Okay. So I did I am also gonna do the second thing, but I'm just gonna read my revised version since like the first one is kind of long compared to what was just read. So bear with me. Okay. Her head was crowned by thick charcoal tendrils. Her teeth were pearls that graced the frame of jagged edges and deep lines, gleaming teeth put stars on a clear night to shame, unbothered by the rugged frame that showed a job well done protecting its crowning glory. The way sallow vanilla skin dripped down her cheekbone did not deter her from her goal. She had prayed, had fasted, had imploded with a palpable pain of loss that had destroyed many precious things. Her cry was a call to action. In the moment, her pain was tangible. It was the final cost to partake in the cosmic cycle. Her tortured bellow was the call to action, for she needed saving, and there were no nobles in shining armor to storm the fortress of pain around her.
That was stunning. Thank you so much, Z. Nikita, and then Deanne.
Oh, and firstly, Yvette and Z, those are beautiful readings. Thank you so much. So I'm going to do my simile and metaphor assignment. Her voice was like a conflagration. This is a simile version first, sorry. Her voice was like a conflagration. When she laughed, it was like a crackle. When she shouted, it was like the whistle of a firecracker. When she whispered, the air from her mouth was like blowing smoke in your ear. If you liked that thing, it was nice. If you didn't, it was bad. People who liked it would mingle with her as if there were two fires converging into a bigger fire. They would eat everything around them like a real forest fire, a house fire, and when they were done, they would drift away in the same way that breeze carries embers to other kindlings. And then this is a rewrite. Her voice was a conflagration. Her crackling laugh, her firecracker shouts, her warm, smoky whispers. The cold shied away from her, the warm hovered near, but her fellow fires leapt at her and mingled and flared hot and bright until, now embers, they caught the breeze and floated away to other kindlings to start all over again.
Fire. Deanne, did you still want to go?
Yeah, mine's short. I'm gonna read what I wrote for the first one. And I'm gonna be honest, similes don't come to me, so I just kind of just wrote what came. The fruit dripped honey sweet from her teeth. Globs of sticky, messy things pumping new life into broken dreams. Mama told Isi, don't get caught in the rain. But Isi was too busy playing. She double-dutched and hopscotched and smacked balls into the sky. She cracked it into jagged edges. Secrets flowed heart-stained rivers into the ears of the unworthy. And that's where I was done with that.
Okay, so we have Aurelius and then Maurice.
This is the second prompt I tried. The first one I could not think of any good similes, which was weird for me. There's a fractal rhythm to the West Side, a pattern that you only notice if you're a part of it. The presence of lush trees and then their conspicuous absence. The sorrow of a woman's eyes and the discovery of her humor and wit. She was laughing at you and then with you in conspiracy. I'm making a topic of the tunes you play. The mind of my mind set to a rolling trap beat, the player of loud music and the speaker of soft words. It is a summer and there is only room for shouting if you see someone you know or if you know someone you see. Looking at the rhythm, behold, the way slow drum beat of passing blocks like dragging may drag like D'Angelo's drumline. The signs that were painted decades ago, the weather has revealed their true selves, and the crackling paint is a foreteller of the future via the past. The buildings stand next to each other, alternating defeat and victory, defeat and victory.
That felt like a chant. Maurice?
That's what I was going for. That's why I tried.
Okay. I hope I got simile or metaphors right, but I just started writing. Ty's lips were burnt like bread. Ty's breath was thick like fog. Ty's kiss was sweet as pie. Ty's throat was wide as the now. Ty's hands were rough like sand. Ty's shoulders were strong like me. Ty's nipples were small like pebbles. Ty's skin was black as night. Ty's feet were soft as feathers. Ty's head was big as the sky. Um, Ty's hair shot up straight like a rocket. Ty's elbows were dark as night. Ty's brain was active like a volcano. Ty's booty was thick like blackberry jam. Ty's dreams were as far away as Saturn. Um, Ty's moan was loud like thunder. Ty's smell was bright like the sun. Ty's stretch marks were as full as the sky.
I'm so excited. Are you going to read us the metaphor version? Do you have the metaphor version?
Oh, no, I just kept writing and writing. I do.
Honestly, it's really good. Here for the sexy energy. Oluwatoyin, and then Owino.
Hi. Mine is a kind of silly because I focused more on just making silly metaphors and silly similes. So it's not that serious, but I'll read both my simile version and my metaphor version. Let me start. Imogene felt like a dodo bird, not because she was stupid, but because she was about to go extinct. Her breath came out like bowling balls, hurled from her hand-like mouth and rolling spare after gutter after spare. How could you do this to me? She sputtered like a leaky fountain that's been messed with by some mischief-seeking kid. How could you take my heart and rip it up like paper? Like some random pamphlet left at your door. Like it was a final exam you failed and wanted to forget about. You take everything like a burial site, so gravely. Lee rolled her eyes like gumballs coming down the machine at the convenience store. Jean shot up from her chair as if she was a billionaire's rocket launching away from the hungry, angry working class. I can't take this. I'm like a balloon you keep pushing your hot air into, but I'm not going to let you pop me. And then the metaphor version is, Imogene Franklin was a dodo bird. Not stupid, as popular opinion might believe, but soon to die out completely. From her trembling lips, she breathed out bowling balls, heavy gasps preparing to hit some deserving of punishment pins. How could you do this to me? Her leaky fountain mouth spat out. My heart wasn't scrap paper. It wasn't advertisements. It wasn't an advertisement some guy dressed up as a chicken gave you at the mall. It wasn't your science final you got a 53 on and burned at the graduation bonfire. You're a real cemetery, you know, Lee spoke boredly. You're no fun. Lee's hazel eyes rolled around the gumball machine of her socket. Jean rocketed up from her chair, very eager to escape an intimidating army on the ground. I can't take this. I may be a balloon, all easily puffed up and puncturable, but I'm not letting you pop me.
That was great. That was incredibly entertaining. Owino, and then Ernestine.
This is weird, but let's go. The room was a mirror to her mother's gaze as she looked at her, cold and stifling. The contempt, oh, I'm so sorry. This is the first prompt, the second, so just the metaphor version. The room was a mirror to her mother's gaze as she looked at her, cold and stifling. The contempt she had balked from years ago was drilled onto her face, but here she was, back, this time with a bundle in her arms. It looked vulgar in there, white clothes seemingly too warm, a bun in the oven. Vulgar, a priest getting fucked on the altar, and her mother's face screamed it. She opened her arms and the bundle fell out, landing on the floor without a sound. The red, all she could see now that the bundle was turned over, dripped out of the wool and onto the marble. Another unforgivable sin.
Yes, you brought the element of the unexpected. Ernestine?
I'll start with the metaphor one. Okay, Jaguar wants so terribly to be done with this slight, this meddling. It can hunt its own food and doesn't need no all-knowing goddess stepping in to show what is Jaguar's nature. Ground wants so terribly to be left alone. Jaguar claws at it, leaves grooves destined for bark. Ground did nothing to suffer this. Wind wants so terribly to go. It is filthy with copper from Jaguar's red maw and speckled fur. Hair wants so terribly to not be done, to not have to lay prone, but Goddess is watching, and it is nature. It is prey, it must stay. The second one is for the exercise you had us do at the end, I guess. Put that white cube in my mouth, let it melt on my tongue. Let that sick, slick, sweet make me forget of its journey, of its meaning, of every baggage each grain carry. Put another, don't tell me anything. Keep your trade talk and your slave talk. Be a silent shadow at my elbow. I am lounging before you, bikini untied but placed still, skin glistening. This beach is ours. I am the waves, its curves, its shimmers. Hush, there's a whole ocean. Don't tell me there's no water. Look at me under a parasol, legs to spell eternity. Look at me and place another. I want to taste the cane in the sugar, but make it white, bleach it, give it form, shape.
Sis? What? I had chills. The anti-colonialist chant come through. That was really good. Honestly, someone said dropping bars is gonna kill it, and I'm so excited. It should be anthologized, honestly. Okay, so we are 9 minutes early because that is all I have for you today. I hope you don't feel cheated. Yeah, thank you for sharing the space and time with me. And I am deeply obsessed with Afro-surrealism right now, so it's really cool to be able to share that excitement with you all. And yeah, if anyone has anything that they'd like to say, I'll be here for a little bit. We'll leave this room open, I'm sure, but we can end the recording now. And whoever would like to dip out can dip out, take a break before the read.